Well, yeah, that was great. But one of the main topics for today's podcast, I've somewhat missed the boat on this because I think it was announced last week, probably after we recorded our podcast, but I wanted to touch on it so much. And it might even be the title of this podcast, I'm sure it is the fact that LIV Golf have officially been told now by the official World Golf Ranking that they will, in its current form, not be eligible for any world ranking points.
Ouch.
And it's come out as not really a massive shock to most people, but it's now absolutely definitive that that is the case. And just to kind of those people listening, watching who might not be up to speed with it, I'm sure a lot of people are, but the official World Golf Ranking body is the body that obviously gives out the kind of world ranking points. It's always a bit confusing as how it works. But ultimately, that is what gets people into the majors. It's what gets people these massive lucrative endorsement deals. You know, if you're a top 50 golfer in the world, you get into all the majors, you suddenly become so much more valuable, and Titleist and Callaway and Ping extra will give you more money typically, the higher you are in the world, obviously. It might even be in your contract where if you're in the top 30, you get X amount, and top 10, you get X amount. And it's a huge, huge, huge deal. And there's only a handful, well, maybe a bit more than a handful, a couple of handful of golfers who've been world number one in the world. And somebody like a Luke Donald that has done that, it's often, and Lee Westwood, to some degree, deemed as much of an achievement, if not more so, as winning a major.
It's like the
you could
peak
argue.
of their career, really.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you could ask Lee Westwood the question, we might have done, I can't remember if we did. Would he swap his world number one ranking for a major? Maybe he would say yeah, maybe he would say no. But I think the fact that Luke Donald was world number one, for me, is more of a standout factor that if he wasn't, but he'd won the USPGA once, for example. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, I'd agree.
So the reason, there's a long, long letter that got written to LIV Golf from Peter Dawson, who is the chairman, I believe, of the official World Golf Rankings. And there's a number of reasons as to why they won't be getting world ranking points. But before I come on to that, I want to say now, and this is no secret to people, I'm not a huge fan of LIV at all. And I didn't watch any of it over the weekend. I think the season's now finished. I've had very little to no interest in it, and I think it's pretty average at best. As a tournament, as a brand, as a franchise, I'm not that into it. However, I do believe that the official World Golf Ranking not incorporating some level of points for the people that play on LIV is actually making a mockery of the world rankings, and I now believe they are pretty much obsolete.
Wow. Some bold statements there.
Yeah, so allow me to explain a little bit more. And then I want to hear, obviously, your take on it as well. So the number of reasons why the official World Golf Ranking Board have said that LIV Golf isn't eligible is firstly the size of the field. There's only 48 players per event, whereas like 140 or whatever there might be, or 150 or whatever it is in a normal.
100. Well, the Shriners Children's Open, which we straight after this topic we are coming straight onto because we need to talk about Lexi Thompson's performance there. There was 133 players, I believe.
So there's clearly a difference there, isn't there? That's easy to say.
Almost four times more golfers.
Yeah. The second reason is the number of holes played. So obviously everybody knows that a PGA Tour or DP World Tour, whatever, a normal golf event is 72 holes. LIV is obviously famously 54 holes. There's also no cut in LIV Golf. If you're a LIV Golf player, you're playing all 54 holes, obviously on the PGA Tour, DP World Tour, etc. There's cuts after 36 holes. The other reason as well is that 14 players from the makeup of the LIV team LIV roster were absolutely 100% guaranteed to play the 2024 season no matter what happened. So I suppose that, again, you could argue not fair, that there's no way of them getting relegated. Those guys who will be obviously your Brooks, your Brysons, etc., are guaranteed for next year. There's also a limited amount of people that can get promoted to LIV. I think there's only 4 spaces of promotion. Whereas obviously think about the PGA Tour and getting a PGA Tour card. There's many, many more people, albeit at different levels and different rankings. And then finally, there's many reasons, but the last reason I've got here was that they can't award them because the team competition sits alongside an individual competition at the same tournament. So those few factors are where the official World Golf Ranking have made the decision. Whether you think that's fair or not,
I think some of those can be looked over. Like the last one, for example, a team event and an individual event can't be running. I don't see how that affects the world ranking personally. I think where a few of them do hold some more validity is this idea that there's no miscut.
Yeah.
Because, let's say for argument's sake, on a normal PGA Tour event, if you miss the cut, well then your world ranking points aren't going to be very good that week. Event, I don't even know if you move up, or I'm guessing you only move down. Where if there's no cut, there's a high chance you're going to be moving up in the world rankings to some degree. Like you've only got 48 players to play against. I feel like even if you came kind of middle half of that, there's still chances you probably might even go up in the world ranking points.
I think so. For me, the reason that I think it's so flawed is because there's I think it's a new system. I don't know, it might have been around for years, but there's something called datagolf.com, which is quite a bizarre looking website. It's it's full of stats. It's quite almost complex to look at. It's not the prettiest website, but essentially they do lots and lots of different things. And it's updated every week. So it's not been updated normally for this week, but I've still got some good data to hand. And on the top, it says the Data Golf rankings are a ranking of the best golfers in the world according to our model. They are determined by averaging the field strength, adjusted scores of each golfer across professional and amateur tournaments, with more recent rounds receiving more weight. Okay, so they have their list on Data Golf, their rankings, and next to that, they also have the official World Golf rankings. So you can see where a player ranks on their list versus where it is on the official World Golf ranking. And even in some areas, there's some change. So, for example, Data Golf have got Rory as number 1, whereas he's actually number 2 on the official world ranking. And I would actually say at the moment, Rory, in my mind, is the best golfer on the planet right now.
Yeah, who is actually officially one? Scott Scheffler?
Yeah, correct. He's number 3 on this. And on the official world golf ranking, Victor Hovland is world number 4. On this is world number 2, yeah, again, which I would agree with.
I'd almost argue that Victor might be number 1.
Potentially. But then what really, and I appreciate I might be going around this around the houses, but I'm trying to get to my point really, which I will do in a second. When you look at a handful of players, and bear in mind this hasn't been updated for this week as well, I'm going to read some players to you now on where the Data Golf ranking is versus their official World Golf ranking, and you tell me, Rick, which you think is more genuine. Taylor Gooch.
Okay.
His World Golf ranking, 187.
That's miles off.
His Data Golf ranking, 35.
Yeah, and I do even argue slightly higher than that.
Bryson DeChambeau, official World Golf ranking, 132. Data Golf ranking, 25.
Yeah, again, I'd argue higher. Brooks?
He's actually doing okay, I think, because of the fact he won a major. Let me just find him up. He's the one who didn't have.
Cam Smith?
Bear with me. He's not too bad either. Let me find Brooks. The last one I wanted to come on to then, I'll come on to the other ones, was Dustin Johnson, official world ranking, 121. Data Golf, 39.
Yeah. And
so Brooks Koepka is actually, bizarrely, his official world golf ranking is higher. He's 18, and Data Golf is 47, because his actual season, really, after, I think, the US Open he won, kind of went down a little bit. So it's much more, the data rankings is, firstly, it's much more about recent form.
What was it, USPJ?
I can't remember.
US Open, I think.
It doesn't matter. It's much more about recent form. And also, it is utilising some weighting from LIV Golf events now. I'm not for 1 second saying that LIV Golf players deserve to get super, super high levels of world ranking points for their performance, because rightly so, there's only 48 players, some of who are not very good, some of who are very good. It's only 3 days, it's all these other things. But to not have any inclusion, you can't honestly tell me now that you look at that official world golf ranking and you see Taylor Gooch at 187 and that is correct.
It can't
it's
be
187. Not. So again, back to my original point, I'm not a fan of LIV Golf. I think the players that jump ship to join LIV Golf for their bucket loads of cash deserve everything that came their way negatively, in a sense of, you can't then moan if you're not on the Ryder Cup teams, although obviously Brooks made it. But if you're a European and you're left to go and, like, let's say Ian Poulter, can't really moan that he's not going to be in the Ryder Cup setup or as a captain or something, or Henrik Stenson who lost his captaincy, because you knew that was realistic when you jumped ship to LIV. So all those things, fair dues. You got a big bucket load of cash, brilliant, but you lost out on other things. That's a risk, or that's a decision they made themselves. But you can't really say it's fair, well, not even fair. You can't say you've got a legitimate organisation ranking the best golfers in the world if you decide not to incorporate some competitions. And lastly, I'll go on to, and this is still quite a big difference, Sam Horsfield, friend of the channel, his official world golf ranking, 377. His data golf is 193. So I think that's much more reflective, again, that he's within the top 200 players in the world, rather than Sam Horsfield being 377.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not quite right, is it?
I don't believe so.
What can be fixed, though? What can actually be changed?
Well, can't we somehow almost copy this model? Like, incorporate LIV. Don't give them anywhere near as many. But winning a PJ Tour event is, in my opinion, and I think factually, so much more of an accomplishment. Certainly a proper field, big event. You know, if you win at Sawgrass, that's so much more of a difficult thing to do than win a LIV event. The field's deeper, it's better, there's more players, there's more holes. But you still should get some points.
One thing I have seen quite a bit more from LIV this year is repeat winners.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Taylor Gooch, has he won two or three events?
I think now.
Bryson DeChambeau, not Bryson's. Oh, Bryson's obviously won.
Yeah.
I'll actually get LIV winners this year. LIV winners 2023. I feel like there's been more repeat winners this year.
Let me just find. I want to show you another one that's not actually a LIV guy to see if this actually comes up. To see if this is, again, I don't think many people understand how the actual world rankings do work, and I, for one, definitely don't. But let me just find this example. So, what the heck? That's weird.
Just a quick one while you're doing that. I have found out a little bit of a stat from this year for LIV. Not investigative journalism here. Brooks Koepka has won 2 events this year.
Yeah.
Taylor Gooch has won 3 events. Cam Smith has won 2 events. Bryson DeChambeau has won 2 events. There's not many names at the top of the winning. Like, it seems to be very, very, very similar names. Outliers in that: Charles Howell III, Danny Lee, and also Harold Varner are kind of outliers in that. But pretty much everybody else is a repeat winner this year.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So it makes you start to look at that list, and you've got to really say that isn't an accurate representation. Surely it's not. I put a tweet out last night trying to just really get a little bit of insight into people's opinions and thoughts, and I put it was quite provocative and quite clickbait, but I've just put a tweet saying LIV Golf should get world ranking points. And a lot of people, certainly on Twitter, did not agree with me. There was lots of people saying that no, they absolutely don't. Someone here's put, if a football league came along and played 60-minute matches in a 10-team league, should the top 3 qualify for the Champions League? Now, again, it's quite a different argument, but if you, let's just say, hypothetically...
It's quite a good point.
No, all right then, but let's just say, again, I'm going to be a bit silly with this now, there is a player who joins LIV, and it's Sam Horsfield, right? And whatever his world ranking is, 377. And Sam Horsfield suddenly starts winning every LIV event, shooting 59 in every single round of every single tournament at par, 72 courses. Again, it's never going to happen. Could we honestly say that he is the 377th best player in the world?
No.
It's not the case, is it? Now, that's ridiculous to the extreme level, but it doesn't make sense. There should be some level of a weight of award to make that list genuine, because I don't think anybody listening to this podcast can truly, truly say, hand on heart, that Taylor Gooch is the 187th best player in the world. You can't. You can't say that and believe it.
No.
Same with Bryson, 132, and same with DJ, 121. No matter what your thoughts are on LIV, and again, I'll put my hands up, I'm not a fan of LIV at all, but you can't agree with that.
Did people accuse you of being a mega fan because you put that tweet out last night?
Yeah. Which obviously I'm not. People who listen to the podcast a lot know I'm not. But it was just a bit of a topic on. I'm just keen, obviously, to hear your overriding take on it. Like, do you think there should be some level of award or not?
Yeah, I do. I just don't know. Personally, like I say, bar the statistics website you've pulled up there before, there's got to be a way of being able to do it, but it has to reflect the competition differences, because they are very, very different. That's my take.
No, I agree, but I just think it was food for thought, and I'm very, very keen Obviously, and I'm sure we will get people comments on the YouTube video to write your comments below. Are you in favour of LIV getting world ranking points? It shouldn't get world ranking points. And again, if you're watching, if you're listening to the podcast, email us. It's podcast@rickshiels.com.
Going back to one final point, how much do you think the players actually care? Is it really just to get into majors?
I would imagine, because I'm sure I'm right in saying that Taylor Gooch is not exempt for any of the majors next year. So he's, and again, to that degree, you could maybe argue, well, he joined LIV Golf, and at the time, he would have known there's a strong chance they wouldn't be eligible for world ranking points. Maybe he didn't know that, maybe he did. You'd like to think he had an educated guess that they wouldn't. He's earned a bucket load of cash. He's making a bucket load of cash. To some degree, you've made your bed and laying it. Again, you're not going to be in the Ryder Cup team, probably, etc., etc. So, has he got a right to be annoyed? Maybe not, potentially. And should he be allowed to play in the majors? I think he should, because he's one of the best players in the field. But for me, it's not. I'm not saying my argument more about the emotions of these guys and should they be allowed, or the rights and the wrongs. It's more having a list. If you've got an official world golf ranking list, and you've got Bryson DeChambeau at 132 and DJ at 121, that's just not reflective. It's not accurate. Regardless of whether you think it's LIV's good, bad, or indifferent for the game, it's not an accurate list.
Yep.
The other list, I think, feels much more accurate.
Yep.